On the back of Thomas Tuchel and David Moyes.
Well, before we talk about challenging for the title, we should be ready to challenge with West Ham for a win, and then we go on. It's too many losses already, too many points dropped already to talk about big things.
You know what excites me even more? Winning and having a team who are committed, and everybody can go away and say, hey, look how hard those players are working, and look what they're doing and what they're giving. And for 2.5 years, that's what we've got. We are now in the process of changing.
Chelsea host West Ham, hoping to get back to winning ways. The hosts come off the back of a 2-1 loss to Southampton and a wild transfer window that saw them spend a Premier League record of £278 million. £70 million signing Wesley Fofana accounts for about a quarter of that spend and makes his Chelsea debut. Thomas Tuchel makes 4 changes from the loss at St Mary's. Reece James is back from illness. Conor Gallagher returns from suspension, and Mateo Kovacic is back as well. West Ham drew 1-1 with Spurs last time out. They've only scored 2 goals all season, but the arrival of Lucas Paqueta from Lyon for around about £45 million rounds off a decent window. The Brazilian makes his full debut after coming off the bench last time out. He's one of 2 changes from the point at home to Spurs. Emerson also comes into the side. Said Benrahma and Aaron Cresswell are the players who make way. David Moyes has never won as a manager in 17 visits to Stamford Bridge, but Chelsea have been hit and miss at home of late. It's an intriguing London derby, and one Chelsea, even this early in the season, really can't afford to lose.
Ben Jacobs, thank you. Yes, very hit and miss. We covered them in this slot a couple of weeks ago against Leicester, a game they did manage to win, but yeah, all these new faces coming in and a fair bit of work to do.
There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of new faces coming in. They've spent an unbelievable amount of money, and that brings pressure in itself. And it's getting the players to gel together. Yeah. And I think that's the main thing, I think, for Chelsea. But I think West Ham will have a chance today. I think they'll fancy their chances today. West Ham.
And they're just getting a bit of momentum finally this season.
Yeah, I mean, it was so important to. Obviously, they lost the first 3, beat Villa. That was so important. Yeah. And again on Wednesday, they probably could have nicked it at the death. So no, they'll be going into the game with a lot of confidence.
Alright, so next to the City Ground up in the East Midlands, Nottingham Forest against Bournemouth, 2 recently promoted sides. Steve Cooper in charge of Forest, and the caretaker boss at the moment of Bournemouth post Scott Parker is Gary O'Neill. We hear from them, and teams from Chris Chappell.
Whether there's players that have been here for years or whether they've come through in the last couple of weeks, it's irrelevant to me. You know, we work the way we work, we train the way we train, day in, day out, and I believe that that's what helps you become the team that you want to be. So we'll commit to every game as it comes.
I think they're an incredible group. Will there be tough spells? Of course, newly promoted side. You show me a newly promoted side in the last few years that hasn't gone through tough spells in the Premier League. I think that's the nature of it. But if they can give what they gave on Wednesday night, I don't see any reason that we can't go and pick up points.
Much has been made of Steve Cooper's frantic recruitment drive in this summer's transfer window, but his Nottingham Forest side for today's match at home to Bournemouth includes 5 of the 11 that started the Championship playoff final in May. One of those is Steve Cook, who spent more than a decade with the Cherries and who returns after missing the midweek mauling by Manchester City. Forest's other change sees Jesse Lingard back in the forward line. Bournemouth had an extremely quiet window by contrast, as Scott Parker was only too keen to mention, and their only deadline day signing, Jack Stevens, is on the bench as caretaker manager Gary O'Neill goes with the same team that earned a goalless draw with Wolves on Wednesday.
Chris, thank you. And yeah, that is the contrast, isn't it? Bournemouth with not enough new faces in, and Nottingham Forest with a record 20 since they came up.
It's quite unbelievable that you know, the amount of players that they've bought, and obviously you do need a squad.
Do you think it's too many?
It's far too many. Far too many. I mean, you saw the season Fulham came up, they had a load of loan players, bought a load of players and went down. So it's how you get the players integrated into the team. We'll see.
Alright. Now the other 3pm kickoff UK is at Molineux. Bit of pressure under Bruno Lage of late, the Wolves boss. Ralph Hasenhüttl of Southampton was under pressure. That seems to have eased with a couple of good results. They're the bosses, we'll hear from them. And a welcome return after with the teams for the brilliant Barry Swain.
We need to understand which is the best moment, which is the best space to explore, and to be careful about their stance to play and their weapons, because also they have a threat. Even the last game is a good example. Chelsea start to win and they don't give up and they win the game.
It's now up to us to keep this mood on this level. It is in the moment absolutely fantastic to work with the team. It is new. It feels for me also like working with a new team in the moment. We are going now on this track and hopefully it's a successful one together.
Both Wolverhampton Wanderers and Southampton have had fairly busy transfer windows. Plenty of comings and goings in Molineux in the past few days before the transfer window slams shut. Goals have been a problem for Bruno Lage, and he wastes no time in giving a debut to his new tall striker, Sasha Kaladzic. Daniel Podence is also restored to the starting 11, as is Rayan Aitnouri. Raul Jimenez amongst those dropping down to the bench. Southampton make just one change. Romeo Lavia making way for Joe Aribo to return. New faces on the bench for Southampton. Ainsley Maitland-Niles on loan from Arsenal amongst Ralph Hasenhüttl's subs. Wolves unbeaten in 6 against Saints, winning their last 3. They could really do with a win today. It would be their first in the Premier League this season. At Molineux is Wolves against Southampton.
Surprised Lavia's been dropped. He's been pretty good when I've seen him, the younger midfielder.
Yeah.
Southampton, quick word on this one, Rufus?
Yeah, I think Southampton going into the game on the back of a fantastic result, against Chelsea, so they'll be buoyed with a lot of confidence. The manager's taken a bit of pressure off him. A lot of people talking about is he going to be the man? But like I say, it's going to be a really good game, and Southampton, I think, will just about make it.
Okay, Lavia, we're hearing, actually had picked up an injury, so that would make sense as he steps down. Let's then go back to our featured game. Antonio Conte and Marco Silva are two bosses for Spurs and for Fulham respectively, as we tick down on Premier League Live to our big London derby commentary game. Let's hear from the two bosses before they lock horns in the opposing dugouts.
It's really dangerous because when there is a ball into the box and you find him, and he's strong physically, strong with the header, and we are talking about a really, really good player. But the whole Fulham impressed me because they are playing very well with a good intensity, and they played the 2 games against strong opponents like Liverpool and Arsenal, and also the last game against Brighton, that is a really good team.
It was a hard work for all of us, of course. As I said during the last month, and I have to repeat, the market is really tough for all the clubs around the world. It's being tougher. Even some clubs with more power and with the big budgets, the things are not easy to them, and of course for other clubs it's different. And of course we planned and we tried during last 2 months and a half, and before the last day we are really happy and pleased with our performance, with the work, with the players that we had inside. Of course the other players, they come to add something and to create enough numbers for the competition that we are playing.
We have to know that we have just started this process to try to improve the squad, and in this transfer window we try to do this also in January with Betancourt and Kulusevski. Also in this transfer window we tried to improve the squad under numerical and quality aspect, but for sure to be competitive and to think to fight to be a title contender.
We like it. Of course it's tough to play because the quality they have crowd behind them. The main thing for us to embrace it, to enjoy, to know that it will be really tough for us. We have to play with confidence, to go there with confidence, respecting them, but just that.
Marco Silva and Antonio Conte, quick word on where you think this game is going to be won and lost. What are one or two of your key battle areas and personnel head-to-heads?
It'd be interesting to see Richarlison. I think he's a fantastic player, and he always looking to get beyond the defender and create something. Obviously you've got Harry Kane. Can they stop the service into Harry Kane and obviously the runners? It will be, I think in the midfield it will be interesting.
Excellent stuff. Rufus Brevitt will be alongside me, Russell Hargreaves, and as ever at Premier League Live, at TalkSport Live. Please drop us a tweet, and we love to hear from you around the world at TalkSport Live. Tell us where you are, what you're up to, where you're listening from. Send us a picture, your thoughts on Spurs this season, on Fulham, all of the above and much more. Gratefully received. We'll read out the best over the course of the game. Tottenham against Fulham. Kick-off 5 minutes away on Premier League Live.
Global events.
The priority now is collecting the evidence.
Breaking news.
Every life that they can save is a success.
Reactive analysis.
It's a very bizarre situation.
From the world's best journalists.
An unfortunate pattern is emerging.
And renowned experts from across the globe.
It still doesn't resolve the fundamental issues.
Keeping you informed as events unfold.
This is a flagrant violation of international law.
Times Radio is available to listen without a subscription. On DAB digital radio, online, via the Times Radio app, and on your smart speaker. Times Radio. Know your times.
TalkSport Drive, weekday afternoons from 4 on TalkSport. A tower of sporting power in the afternoon.
Join me, Andy Goldstein, and TalkSport Team Drive.
The latest sports news, hard-hitting opinion, and exclusive interviews with the biggest names in the game.
Under the bonnet, over the top, into the back of the net.
Sports Mad Afternoon Radio, driven by you.
Revs up weekdays from 4, only on TalkSport.
The fastest football on the way home. TalkSport Drive. Previously on White and Jordan.
It costs the taxpayer zip, zero, zilch, nada, Nathan, nothing.
White Hot Sports News. Incomparable comments.
I mean, honestly, soft tissue injury, 50% up.
Okay.
And at the same stage last season, they don't lie.
Statistics are the beginning of a conversation, Jim, not the end of it.
Comments, conflict and confrontation.
International friendlies, ditch them. Gone. Carabao Cup, gone. FA Cup, gone.
Jim White.
4 words, never going to happen.
Simon Jordan.
Go away and come back when you've got something more grown up to say.
Continues weekday mornings from 10 on TalkSport.
Yeah.
Times Radio, making sense of a changing world.
The biggest names in politics.
The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is here.
Well, a great honour to be here.
The arts.
My first guest is the acclaimed director Werner Herzog.
Entertainment.
I'm joined by Darren Brown.
World events, at home and abroad.
Shots have been fired in the Black Sea.
And the world's best resourced, intelligent opinion.
I came into politics to change lives.
In times of change, be well informed.
Times Radio is available to listen without a subscription on DAB digital radio, online, via the Times Radio app, and on your smart speaker.
Times Radio.
TalkSport Breakfast. Weekday mornings from 6. A new day, a new dawn.
God bless, bang, 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 9 dart finish.
Featuring a rotating team of top name talent, including Laura Woods.
Oh, it does make me a little bit...
Ali McCoist.
What a mouth-watering prospect.
And Alan Brazil.
You know, you are some blagger, you are.
TalkSport Breakfast.
Look, we've woken up, finally.
We're off and running.
Weekday mornings from 6 on TalkSport.
You're listening to TalkSport's coverage of Tottenham Hotspur against Fulham from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm your host, Russell Hargreaves, and alongside me is the former Fulham defender Rufus Brevitt. And this is Premier League Live. A couple of minutes away from kick-off. What should be a corking London derby, superb atmosphere, and two teams in pretty decent form. Fulham far more promising and competitive this time around on their return to the top tier under Marco Silva. And Spurs not necessarily quite as free-flowing and maybe not quite getting the number of wins they would like, but still third in the table. 3 wins, 2 draws, no defeats this season. It's very solid under Antonio Conte, and they head in as favourites this afternoon, no doubt. Fairly warm, muggy day in the capital. Cloudy skies, and to be fair, the playing surface looking excellent, Rufus, isn't it, as ever?
Well, it's a carpet, isn't it? You see the pictures, you know, all through the Premier League, they're carpets all year round, and it looks magnificent.
Okay, let's run you through the teams one more time. Spurs, 5 changes to the side that drew their previous London derby at West Ham 1-1. Richarlison, Christian Romero, Ryan Sessegnon, Rodrigo Bentancur and Clement Lenglet come into the side with Davinson Sanchez, Ivan Perisic, Dejan Kozlowski, Ben Davies and Yves Bissouma all dropping to the bench. It's Hugo Lloris in goal, Romero, Eric Dyer and Lenglet at the back. Sessegnon and Emerson Royal as your wing-backs with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Bentancur in the engine room. Richarlison with Son Heung-min and Harry Kane up top. That is your 11 for Spurs today. For Fulham, unchanged under Marco Silva to the side. It was so impressive on Tuesday against Brighton, winning that by 2-1. Bernd Leno is in goal. Kenny Tete, Anthony Robinson, Tim Ream and Tosin is your back four. Harrison Reed and Paulinho in midfield. Bobby De Cordova-Reid, Andreas Pereira, Neeskens Cabano supporting Alexander Mitrovic. Up top, Mitrovic 5 goals this season already, Kane 4. And that, as we touched on before, will be one of many intriguing head-to-heads, won't it?
Yeah, it will be. And, you know, like we say, you look at Son, who is contributed with his work rate, but it's just the goals that haven't quite been there yet. But I'm sure that he'll be working extremely hard to put that right.
Our referee today is Stuart Atwell, who's in a very fetching orange top with the rest of him in black. Spurs in their traditional kit of white and blue, and Fulham in their change kit of effectively all black with a tiny bit of white trim. They're attacking from right to left in the first half from our vantage point here at Spurs. Tottenham going the other way, and we are underway right here on Premier League Live. Fulham happy to stroke the ball around early on as far as Tosin, who edges his way forward wearing 4. Nice little crossfield ball to the left hand side. The USA international Anthony Robinson. Pereira out to the left and Cabano cutting in from that far side is what led, of course, to the Mitrovic goal on Tuesday. Yeah, and that's what they'll be looking when it goes out wide in the final third. They'll be looking to get that ball into the box, and Tottenham did really well there. They'll recognise that they have to stop the supply into Mitrovic. So a throw to Fulham about midway inside the Spurs half on the far side, taken by Robinson looking for Alexander Mitrovic, and unsurprisingly 2 players around the big Serb ready to try and shackle him.
When we get another break in play. Chelsea have the ball on the halfway line and they've won a throw-in. It's Cucurella, the former Brighton man, who goes back to a fellow new signing in Koulibaly. Chelsea have spent $278 million in the summer transfer window. That's a record for them. It's only just shy of the world record by Real Madrid, as neat feet from Raheem Sterling brings Chelsea 35 yards from goal, but then he's pickpocketed really well by Declan Rice, who spreads it to Antonio down the left hand side, and there's Wesley Fofana. First touch, first tackle. I suppose you can say he's 100% in terms of his successful tackles at Chelsea. And that impact draws a round of applause all around Stamford Bridge, and then it's work to Kovacic in central midfield. Fofana, a really composed centre-back, playing on the right side of this back three. He'll hope to learn from Thiago Silva, and also really Koulibaly as well, not so much directly as a centre-back because they play on the right and the left, but Koulibaly has really tried to add to his attacking game over the last 3 or 4 seasons, and that's something that Fofana wants to develop as well. Cucurella tries to work the ball in field now to Sterling. Now it takes a slightly fortuitous deflection off Bowen, and Chelsea will have a throw-in in a dangerous area, level with the edge of the area on this near left hand side. It's taken quickly by Cucurella, who's got great energy, and then it goes square to Kovacic, and now backwards towards Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Chelsea just slowing things down. Fofana gets another touch and goes square to Silva, bang on the halfway line. Kepa, Jorginho, Chalobah, Broja, Mount, Chilwell, Ziyech, Azpilicueta and Havertz on the bench. Areola and Randolph, 2 goalkeepers for West Ham. Lanzini, Downs, Cornet, Ogbonna, Benrahma and Coventry. No Scamacca, who was always a doubt for the game because of a virus. He's on antibiotics. And Chelsea still have the ball on the halfway line. They haven't made much progress. 4 minutes gone so far at Stamford Bridge, and it's Silva once again on the ball, sweeping diagonal, looking for Cucurella. It gets a round of applause, but it's far too strong, and it's out for a West Ham throw-in inside their own half. So Chelsea just 6 for 16 at home in the Premier League. which illustrates statistically just how patchy they've been. A few lapses in judgment, a couple of calls that have gone against them, like that Tottenham game that I mentioned earlier. And West Ham now have a throw-in inside the Chelsea half. Koufal will take it. Not too many options at the moment, but he will be able to receive the ball back from Paqueta, and that's his first involvement, and then it goes backwards to the former Chelsea player Zouma, who is on the halfway line. Emerson now trying to break down the left-hand side, but Chelsea are well covered in that department, and Reece James goes all the way back to Edouard Mendy. Mendy, who has looked a little bit shaky at times during the early part of the season, very un-Mendy-like, and it has got some fans at least asking whether Kepa should have an opportunity, but Mendy remains between the sticks, the 30-year-old 6'4" Senegalese international. Chelsea dominating possession at the moment, no meaningful chances for either side. 5 minutes gone, it's Chelsea 0, West Ham United 0. On TalkSport's Premier League Live, Cucurella goes back to Mendy once again. Mendy in that radioactive orange, I think that's the best way to describe it. I suppose some might call it salmon orange. It almost borders on pink, actually. Chelsea's defenders are not really being pressed at the moment by West Ham, so they are able to have plenty of touches and just pass the ball around, but we haven't seen too much progressive passing so far, and Thomas Tuchel on the touchline is just waving the right arm. I think he wants Chelsea to move it forwards a little bit quicker, but they are generally a patient team, so this is a very Chelsea-like start. Cucurella on the left-hand side to Koulibaly, the former Napoli man, now Sterling, who's dropped a little bit deeper and is trying to just interchange and work his way a bit closer to the area. He's almost able to feed Pulisic, but he fell to the ground. It will fall to Conor Gallagher though, 35 yards out, just being filtered over to the right hand side by Declan Rice to a less threatening area, and West Ham might not be pressing the Chelsea defenders, but in midfield they're doing really well to stifle any space. But Sterling continues the attacking phase, lays it off to Cucurella, his cross is deflected and Zouma fires it out of play. West Ham fans behind the goal scream Zouma, and some applause as well actually from the Chelsea fans as well, because he was a popular player at Stamford Bridge, played over 150 times. Silva on the ball now to Loftus-Cheek. Now Gallagher spreads it out to the right hand side. Reece James is on the ball. Not the best pass backwards to Gallagher, but Gallagher recovers well and feeds James once again, and then he surges into the area, and there was Declan Rice tracking back well, but it comes off Rice and it's a Chelsea corner on the far right hand side. We've played 7 minutes here at Stamford Bridge. It is Chelsea 0, West Ham 0 on TalkSport's Premier League Live. Chelsea have the first corner of the game. Emerson standing on the near left-hand post for West Ham United. Sterling making a nuisance of himself around the penalty spot. Marc Cucurella to take the corner. Can Chelsea get an early breakthrough? It's going to be an outswinger. Koulibaly is up, as is Loftus-Cheek as well. In it comes from Cucurella. It was under hit, and Paqueta, one of the smallest players on the field, gets good distance on the header, and Chelsea pick it up again on the halfway line. I'll run through the teams in full for you once again in just a moment, in case you are late to the broadcast. It's great to have your company though. Ben Jacobs with you. And there is a ton of 3 o'clock games in the Premier League, and they're all 0-0 at the moment. So Everton-Liverpool setting a pattern of stalemates. That was a really good game though, as you expect from a Merseyside derby. And then of course not the only derby that's complete, because we had the Old Firm as well, and Celtic won that one by 4 goals to 0. They're now 5 points clear at the top of the SPL. Chelsea break down the right hand side. It's Reece James against Fornals, and James just has to check back. Fornals stays close to him, and then a diagonal ball back to Loftus-Cheek. James once again on the edge of the area, can't quite prod it in towards Conor Gallagher, who's started well, and then a careless challenge by Loftus-Cheek, and he's going to get booked for that as well. Slid in pretty late, reckless and needless really, because Chelsea had lost possession. So a cheap booking, which is kind of what happened to Conor Gallagher when he ended up being sent off as well. Loftus-Cheek is the first booking of the game. Soucek was the player felled down. Ruben Loftus-Cheek was never going to get anywhere near that ball, given it was on the edge of the West Ham box and they were about to clear their lines. He's got a needless booking less than 10 minutes in and now has to walk a tightrope. And there have been some questions asked about Chelsea's discipline. Gallagher sent off, Koulibaly sent off as well at Leeds so far this season. Soucek picks it up deep for West Ham United and spreads it out to that left-hand side, and then it's launched down the line, looking for Antonio, who thought that he was in there on a one-on-one with Koulibaly, but he was just a bit too physical and will be penalised as a result in creating the space. He committed a foul over on that far left-hand side. Not actually sure that he did too much wrong. I think Silva was coming across to cover Wesley Fofana on that right hand side and was going at so much pace that he just lost his footing, but Mikel Antonio was standing right next to him, and sometimes when you get those 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, the defender gets the benefit of the doubt. And now Pulisic breaks down the left hand side for Chelsea, whips one into a dangerous area. Really good defending by Zuma to get in the way, because Raheem Sterling was lurking just to the right of the 6-yard area and surely would have put it in, but Zuma, the former Chelsea player, was there. Excellent positional defending. Pulisic, though, with the first real break and bit of magic that he's had the opportunity to show as he looks to impress Thomas Tuchel and have a regular run in the side. No suggestion, of course, that he won't be going to Qatar with the US men's national team, who are in the same group as England, but he'll want that consistency and to find his form. End of last season missed a couple of big chances in front of goal, and that has seemed to knock his confidence. Now, though, he has an opportunity to show what he can do. Pulisic, one of a number of changes by Thomas Tuchel from that 2-1 defeat to Southampton last time out. I will run through the teams in a moment, but Kovacic has the ball for Chelsea in central midfield and then goes square to his right where he finds Silva. Now Raheem Sterling, who's just drifted over to that right hand side. He's still about 40 yards from goal. Sterling on the run though, past about 4 different West Ham players, but then just overran it, and that allows Zuma once again to just cut across, but he does have to concede a corner again on that far right hand side. It's Chelsea 0, West Ham United 0 so far. Chelsea with all of the ball, West Ham being pushed deeper and deeper. Antonio hasn't been an outlet yet, nor has Paqueta, and West Ham have some defending to do once again. Chelsea's second corner, it's on the far right hand side. Sterling is just standing in front of the 6-yard area, being marked by Zuma. Wesley Fofana, Koulibaly and Silva are all up. Fofana is standing just in front of Bowen. In it comes by Cucurella, and it is cleared once again by West Ham in the form of Declan Rice, and he got good distance on the clearance as well, so much so that Kovacic, under a little bit of pressure from Bowen, has to go all the way back to Edouard Mendy. Both of the corners on the far right hand side from Chelsea have been a little bit undercooked, and of course when the first man clears it at the near post it can be frustrating, but that's usually a tactic, and if you do get that little nick at the near post it has a high success rate. But these were not corners intended for the near post, they were just slightly under hit, and as a result Chelsea players hovering around the penalty area and the back post haven't really been able to do too much so far. West Ham have got plenty of power and height anyway in their back line. Chelsea aren't winning too many of the aerial duels so far, and after that corner was cleared they still have the ball very deep and are just passing it through their defenders and then all the way back once again to Mendy. Now Koulibaly, who assisted the play that led to the penalty on opening day when Chelsea won at Goodison Park, a really incisive pass. They then scored a wonder volley with a striker's finish in the London derby against Spurs, and then was sent off against Leeds. So he's had an eventful start as Koulibaly, as West Ham try and just wrestle a bit of possession in midfield, and they did it momentarily, but then it's just looped forwards back into the Chelsea penalty area and there is nobody there from West Ham's perspective, so Chelsea will once again recover possession from deep. Let's run you through the teams then once again. Chelsea with Mendy in goal, Fofana making a debut, Koulibaly and Silva, Loftus-Cheek, James, Gallagher, Kovacic and Cucurella, and then Sterling and Pulisic, the front two effectively. It actually looks like Chelsea are more in a 3-1-4-2. I said at the beginning they might be in a 3-4-3. I'll come to the West Ham team in a moment, but Gallagher has the ball on the edge of the area and then just switches direction to the left-hand side, but that's going to be too strong for Cucurella. It was a nice idea, but Marc Cucurella, £62 million signing, will not be able to keep that ball in play. 15 minutes gone, it's Chelsea 0, West Ham 0. The West Ham side have made 2 changes from a 1-1 draw against Tottenham. Fabianski in goal, Koufal Kehrer, who's actually scored 2 own goals so far this season, Zuma and Emerson, Rice and Soucek, Bowen, Paqueta, Fornells and Antonio leading the line. It's a 4-2-3-1 as far as David Moyes' side is concerned. Todd Boehly is present, as he has been all season. I think he'll have got a decent night's sleep after the window is shut. He's got a cup of coffee in his right hand, and he certainly needed it as minority owner, chairman and interim sporting director. 3 jobs in one. And overall, Chelsea have had a relatively impressive window. They've invested in their youth. They've brought in Fofana, big target, Koulibaly and Sterling and Cucurella all involved. Here's Christian Pulisic. Edge of the area, right-hand side, 30 yards from goal. Goes backwards on this occasion, though, to Wesley Fofana, and now it's with Silva under no pressure whatsoever on the halfway line. Everybody is behind the ball as far as West Ham United are concerned. Other games in the Premier League are all still 0-0 at the moment after about 15 minutes. That's Brentford and Leeds, Newcastle and Crystal Palace, Forest and Bournemouth, Spurs and Fulham, and Wolves against Southampton. As Chelsea still have the ball pretty centrally and around 35 yards from goal. It's Ruben Loftus-Cheek who's been booked up against Soucek, spreads the ball out to Raheem Sterling in his bright orange boots. Sterling just drops the shoulder and then back to Loftus-Cheek, and now Gallagher. And here is Reece James on the right-hand side. James and Fofana share the same haircut, by the way. They've got a kind of heartbeat theme. Pulisic now. James is the heartbeat of Chelsea, certainly down that right-hand side. Pulisic to James, who's just strayed offside, and that was well organised from the perspective of West Ham. They're looking a bit pensive at the moment. He'll feel his side are under the cosh to some extent, but they have defended well, especially Zuma. Both of these sides have got a congested fixture calendar coming up. West Ham in the UEFA Europa Conference League, Chelsea in the Champions League. Chelsea go to Dinamo Zagreb midweek, and they'll be relatively happy with the draw. As West Ham break down the left-hand side, a rare venture into the area, and it was a good ball in as well by Bowen, which almost found Paqueta, but Koulibaly gets the ball away. West Ham with a bit more shape here, though. It's their first meaningful attack, but they are forced to go backwards to Zuma. And again they come down the left-hand side, and Emerson, a neat little run all the way to the byline, but then a weak cross, and Silva to Fofana, who's pushed from behind and will win his side a free kick. Emerson says no. Fofana dived, but it was a clear little shove of frustration. But the former Chelsea player hot-footing his way down the left-hand flank all the way to the byline, and if anything he was moving too fast to really put his foot through the ball. His final touch took the ball so close to the byline that he had to just put out a flailing leg to try and get the ball into the box, otherwise it may have taken a roll out of play, and as a consequence he couldn't generate enough power, and it was an easy clearance in the end for Silva, the Chelsea captain, in the centre of that 3-man back three, and it will be a Chelsea free kick from deep. So speaking of Europe, West Ham are at home to FCSB, the Romanian side, and they're in a group with Silkeborg and Anderlecht as well. And then Chelsea, as I say, have got that away trip in the Champions League. That's on Tuesday night at 5:45 UK. Milan and Salzburg, the other teams in Chelsea's Champions League group. So Silva standing over this free kick from deep, and he just hoofs it forward centrally. West Ham will pick it up in midfield with Bowen. spreads it nicely to that left-hand side, and then West Ham were almost able to play in Antonio there, but Chelsea's central defenders in the way. It was a nice idea though, and then Chelsea go long down the left-hand side. Sterling's not going to be able to keep that in play, I don't think. He was up against Koufal. The key question is going to be who got the final touch. Koufal thinks it's a goal kick, but this is probably going to be given as a Chelsea corner. Has just clipped off the back heel of Koufal. So Chelsea will have their first corner on the near left-hand side and their third corner of the game. It's going to be Conor Gallagher to take it. It will be an outswinger. Plenty of Chelsea players moving around the 6-yard area, and a cluster of 3 by the penalty spot as well. In it comes from Conor Gallagher. It's towards the back post, and Zuma gets his head to it once again. He has been absolutely magnificent in this first 20 minutes. It's still Chelsea 0. West Ham United 0 on TalkSport's Premier League Live, and all of the other Premier League games are 0-0 as well, including one full time from earlier, the Merseyside derby. Everton 0, Liverpool 0. So many derbies today, all around the world really. There's the Milan derby in Serie A. The Old Firm has finished as well, 4-0 to Celtic, who are in imperious form. Both Celtic and Rangers, remember, in the Champions League as well. West Ham have the ball at the back. 1 win for West Ham United away at Villa, a 1-1 draw with Spurs, and those are their only 2 goals in the Premier League so far. They have also played in the qualifiers for the UEFA Europa Conference League. They beat Viborg. Skamaka, who's out with a virus, has got off the mark for West Ham, yet to score in the Premier League, and that also is the case for Antonio as well, who's leading the line this afternoon. 10 goals last season in the league for Antonio, the 32-year-old. Koulibaly on the ball at the moment to Silva. Played forwards to Pulisic, who has been lively, particularly from central areas. The American has got out wide once as well down the left-hand side, where he tried to break into the area, but his cross was cleared. Cucurella now, back to Koulibaly. Silva once again can amble up to the halfway line with no pressure. Pulisic short of options as well. It's a very congested central midfield. I think Thomas Tuchel will want to see Chelsea start switching the direction. Fofana now, the former Leicester man who essentially forced his way out of the club. Leicester originally wanted 85 million. In the end they got 70, but that 70 is paid in a big chunk, which allowed Leicester to move a bit more freely in the market. Koulibaly once more, one of the best defenders in Serie A last season. Up to Sterling, the ex-Manchester City man, and now Fofana once again, who, let's not forget, is a boyhood Chelsea fan. Silva again, this is patient build-up by Chelsea, but in truth they're not going anywhere at the moment. Cucurella trying to change that as he receives the ball on the left-hand side. Loftus-Cheek, Koulibaly once more, 30 yards from goal, spreads the ball neatly to James, who brings it down with his shoulder but then overcooks the cross, and it rolls out of play harmlessly for a West Ham throw-in. Always too high and fast for any blue shirts to get on the end of it, and it stays at 0-0. Don't forget there's a late kick-off as well. Aston Villa against Manchester City. Steven Gerrard under a bit of pressure. We've already lost Scott Parker from Bournemouth following that 9-0 defeat to Liverpool last weekend. West Ham inbounding the throw-in, and then Paqueta has been fouled, so they'll have a free kick from deep inside their own half just to alleviate a bit of the pressure. It's clear what the tactics are from David Moyes, to play on the counter-attack, to stay disciplined. So far that is working. No meaningful chances for either side so far. It's Chelsea 0, West Ham 0. 24 minutes played. Great to have your company on TalkSport's Premier League Live. West Ham give the ball away from the free kick inside their own half, so Chelsea pick it up again from deep. Koulibaly centrally on the halfway line. Chipped forwards now looking for Sterling. It's just a fraction short, and Thilo Kehrer is able to half clear, and then Cucurella is putting Koufal, the Czech defender, under a bit of pressure. Koufal, though, wins the better of that exchange. And it will be a goal kick to West Ham United, taken by the veteran keeper Lukas Fabianski, 37 years of age now, and still going strong. Only has 2 clean sheets, though, in 20 appearances against Chelsea. And he goes short inside his own 6-yard area to Kehrer, the former PSG man who's also signed this summer. Kehrer launches it into central midfield, but Chelsea will pick it up. Loftus-Cheek in his bright green boots tries to find Pulisic, who is fouled by Antonio. West Ham will be the happier of the two sides so far, even though Chelsea have had the lion's share of the possession, 70% of it to be exact. And it remains a stalemate, not just in this game, but across all of the other Premier League matches as well. And we will keep you across all the goals. You can hear them at half-time if there are any. If not, Russell Hargreaves will just have to do a whole lot more talking, because right now we do not have any goals to tell you about on a Saturday in the Premier League, which is very rare after an early kickoff and 25 minutes of 6 3 o'clock kickoffs. But it is good to have your company wherever you are listening from. Do let us know on social media as well whereabouts in the world you are listening in. Emerson has the ball on the halfway line. As he tried to break forwards, it takes a deflection and goes back to Zuma. West Ham, though, will keep possession at the back, and now it's with Koufal, who's having a few more touches and has been under pressure in this first half. Soucek gives it away, though. There's space here for Ruben Loftus-Cheek to break forwards. He's got Conor Gallagher to his right-hand side, doesn't use him, goes to Cucurella instead, who just prods it into the path of Raheem Sterling. Not too many options. Back to Cucurella again into the box, and it's cleared once again by West Ham. This time Declan Rice gets it half clear. Wesley Fofana storms to the edge of the area. Shoot is the call from the Chelsea fans, but he lays it off to Reece James instead, who fires one across the edge of the area, and then a deflected shot comes in from Christian Pulisic, and that will be out for a corner. Kehrer was in the way. It was never hit cleanly, in truth, and as a result it made it very comfortable from the perspective of West Ham's defenders. But it was neat build-up. Fofana a part of it, surging forwards, which he didn't get to do too often for Leicester City, laying it off to James, who showed good composure to just skip past Fornells, and then at the byline put it into a pretty perfect area. Kehrer half cleared, and then the deflected shot was a little bit wild from Pulisic, and Chelsea have to settle for a corner on the near left-hand side. 4th corner of the game. Conor Gallagher puts up the left hand. It is an out-swinging corner. It's whipped into a dangerous area. Koulibaly was there, and he wins the header as well, and it will deflect off a West Ham defender and out for another corner, this time on the far right-hand side. It was always difficult for Koulibaly to glance that towards goal, because he was pretty close just to the left of the 6-yard area, and it hit him flat on the head, so he couldn't really generate too much direction from it. But he has won his side another corner. Cucurella to take the corner from the far right hand side. Koulibaly has stayed forwards. Again, it's under hit, and Declan Rice will clear. Cucurella has had 3 corners from that side, and none of them have beaten the first man. Chelsea then play a long diagonal ball forwards from the right hand side, and Koufal, knowing that it was overhit, happy just to let that bounce and go out of play. So Thomas Tuchel, as he often does, even when Chelsea are winning, flapping his hands and looking a little bit perturbed at the moment. His side have not had a cutting edge, and that has been the problem generally so far this season, aside from perhaps the first 45 minutes of the Tottenham game, which ended 2-2. And that's why he's gone to a familiar face in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, the former Arsenal man who has joined from Barcelona, but he's got a broken jaw at the moment after a horrible break-in at his home. So we wish him and his family, who were affected, well in the recovery. He may be back sooner than expected, though. Tuchel has sent him to Milan to get a special mask fitted, as Fornals picks it up for West Ham down the left-hand side after a long ball was played directly down that channel, but he can't get a meaningful cross in, and Mendy is able to catch the ball. and then quickly start a counter for Chelsea as Gallagher comes down the right hand side. Reece James, who is likely to sign a new contract for Chelsea in the next few days, chooses not to cross and instead go backwards to Wesley Fofana. Another one in those lime green boots. Koulibaly now, not too many options. He's up against Bowen. He goes short to Silva. And now it's with Kovacic, who we haven't seen too much of, but he does do so much unsung work. And he may need a knee operation as well, but he's fit for now. Loftus-Cheek with exactly half an hour on the clock. Chelsea again just happy to pass it around in a non-progressive. Now it's with Fofana again. He won't spend too much time doing what he's doing now for Leicester, where he's able to just nonchalantly amble into the opposition half under no pressure. Now Conor Gallagher, Reece James, Christian Pulisic twisting and turning on the edge of the area.